Accu-Stats Video Productions presents from Cleveland, Ohio, the 1993 Snapple Invitational All-Around Challenge number 2. Along with Frank Zummo, I'm Bill Incardona. Together, we're going to bring you the feature match this evening between a 4 or 5-time defending U.S. Open champion Steve Mizerak and a much lesser known but nonetheless effective Mike Zuglan.
That's right, Billy. Mike Zuglan is the worst kept secret in the professional pool.
Or the best kept secret.
Or the best, right. But, the players know Mike Zuglan. And, he finished second. This is a rematch of the finals in my 1988 U.S. Invitational Straight Pool Championship, which Mizerak won. But in that tournament, Mike had a 148-ball run and out against Jack Calavita on very tough diamond equipment. So Mike could play straight pool with anyone in the world today.
He certainly can. And it's awfully nice to have next to me someone as knowledgeable as you, Frank. Not only are you knowledgeable, but you know Mike Zuglan's game probably as well as anyone does. What kind of a chance do you give Mike to defeat Steve Mizerak in this match?
Well, we talked about earlier, as far as when players go up against Steve Mizerak, the majority of them are intimidated, such as like on the golf course with Jack Nicklaus, players are intimidated by his name. And I don't believe Mike Zuglan is that caliber of player. I don't think he has any fear. I'm sure he'd be the first to tell you he respects Steve Mizerak's game, but no fear. He believes in his mind he can win this game, and beat any other player. So I look for a great game. Whoever gets out in front early, could keep on going. We're seeing some nice runs here this week. So, I would look for one of these players possibly to break loose with a nice run. And, it happens often in sports, Bill. I'm sure you've seen it many times where you could have the best possible matchup and yet the results are, out of line. So you can't expect a barn burner or a big blowout.
And that's exactly the type of attitude you have to have if you expect to beat players the caliber of Steve Mizerak. Mike Zuglan will not be one that will be intimidated that easily. No. Steve's going to have to do a lot of damage to Mike, to break down his confidence.
Okay, Mike has a shot here, which
this is
Steve shooting now. Mike broke him. Steve has a very severe 3-ball cut.
Oh, I thought he made that ball.
He hit the ball. He overcut that ball, believe it or not, on that severe angle, scratched in the left-hand side pocket. And Mike Zuglan gets the first opportunity, I guess, to put a dent in this lead right off the bat.
Okay, let's see how well Mike responds here to the challenge. And this is his first opportunity at the table. Mizerak pocketing one ball and failing to come up with another one gives Mike an excellent opportunity at the table in rack number 1.
Okay, Mike is playing the combination. It looks like he's shooting the 10 ball into the 7, or that's the 3 ball down there. And he got a nice roll there. He's wide open. He has the 10 ball here, or that's 14 ball. It's hard to see these stripes. And now he just followed down real simple for his ball behind the rack. And he would probably have his option to either use this ball as a break shot or to follow up in the middle of the table and shoot maybe the 15 ball in his left corner pocket.
And it's very important to keep it together mentally, particularly in the first rack. The first rack is in any game, 9 ball or straight ball, is a very demanding rack. When usually you really set the tempo of the match in the first rack. If you're able to get through the first rack very nicely, you could rely on finishing the match feeling that way, and you're comfortable. If he gets through the first rack here,
exactly
nicely, I'm sure he'll do well with this. Steve in the match.
With a lot of players, it takes them a while to get loosened up, especially if they're playing Steve Mizerak. But I think Mike's fairly capable of jumping out of the box real fast here. And if he does, we could be looking at a really good match.
There's a lot to be said about quick starters. People that jump on top of you quickly really have a distinct advantage. Not that Mike Zuglan's a late starter, but if he's able to get out of the box very quickly against Steve Mizerak, I give him even a better chance of defeating him.
Exactly. One of the best players I ever saw in that and jumping off the big leads was Joe Balsas. Joe was just notorious.
He's a
tiger. He'd get the first shot and he'd run 5-6 racks, and you were always fighting from behind with Joe, and he wore you out. And again, that's not to say Joe couldn't do it from behind, but he just was such a great front runner.
Joe had a lot of wind to him, and you know that as well as anyone. He was a real tiger.
I believe he has left himself over the ball shot here for the 8 ball on the side, but He really doesn't have to. He could shoot the 10 ball straight in here, and he has the 2 ball sitting perfect for a break shot for the next rack. So I don't foresee no problems with the rest of this rack for Mike. Yes.
Are we playing foul on all balls, Frank?
Yes, we are. I believe in our last invitational, we did not play fouls, and it really didn't present too much of a problem. But you know, as you've experienced, I'm sure, you know, problems come up where you bang a ball or at a very key part of the match. So we're doing it the other way this time.
You know, I like the rule foul on all balls because when you get to a level of play where the professionals play against one another, the game just shows so much better when you do play foul on all balls.
Oh.
Like if you bump another ball, then you replace it back in the position where you bumped it from. That doesn't show very well.
Right, exactly. And you know, then what happens? You might find players abusing that, where they'll deliberately do it, or they know they can do it because it's not a foul, and it really changes the game around. Mike is going to have to shoot this ball in the side pocket. Again, as I said, the 2, it looks like a perfect break shot on the right side of the rack here.
Taking a little more time on this shot. Actually, very methodically looking over this shot.
Is he going to play a kick shot here? Where he's going to knock that one? Yes, exactly. He kicked the 1. And from the angle he's left himself, I can't determine whether he's going to go in the side with it or not. He might just go in the side with this ball and come down where he's in the area where he's at now.
Well, Frank, Steve's going to have to be a little more careful with Mike Zuglan. You know, he's missing that ball in the first rack, giving Zuglan a perfect opportunity to jump on top of him. That's what Zuglan needs to do if he expects to beat Steve, is to get the early lead and try to defeat him in that fashion from the get-go. Now, if Steve has another opportunity at the table, because you know Mike Zuglan's very capable of running 150
We've
and
seen
out.
that many times in the straight pool tournament last summer in New York. Mike Zuglan ran 148 balls, and he did it in Cleveland 5 years ago. So Mike could run on any type of equipment too, but the shot that Steve missed was really not called for.
Steve is a four-time U.S. Open champion, but that's not going to do him any good from the chair.
No, you can't. It's hard to shoot from there. You have to beat Mike Zuglan. You have to put together a steady game, no mistakes, run a lot of balls.
Well, fortunately for Steve, Mike didn't come up with a break shot to open up rack number 2. He played a shot. Now he's going to play some sort of a safety.
Right, he'll just skin the 5 ball real thin and come back and freeze up against the rack. And
apparently, he didn't have the angle to hit the second from the last ball to stick Steve in the rack, opening up 2 balls, 1 on the side cushion, one on the bottom cushion. That seems to be very effective if you have the right angle. Apparently, he didn't have that angle, so therefore, that's probably why he didn't choose to shoot that shot.
Well, right. Well, he's played a nice safe now, so you know we'll see a nice battle here, and another very important part of straight pool. You know, sometimes it could be as important as running balls.
Well, everyone knows the credentials Steve Mizerak carries to the table, and we know that he's going to play, perfectly safe right here. This is one of his fortes, is the safe game, naturally. With all his experience, he knows all the right moves. Now, Mike Zuglan, he's no slouch in that area either.
No, I wouldn't. You don't have to bet on Steve getting the advantage in the safe game against Mike. He's played a nice. He's left Steve on top of the table. There's really nothing to shoot at. I might look for Steve to try to skin the 6 ball and come 2 rails down by the top of the table. Looks like a fairly safe shot. Nope.
Now, is he attempting to go 2 cushions into the back of the stack, maybe opening up 1 or 2 balls, breaking loose 1 or 2 balls?
That's exactly what he's doing. He's just going to take a scratch deliberately. You see, he knocked out the 10 ball perfect over there. Still left Mike with a relatively easy safe opportunity.
Well, explain to me what you would do now if you were at the table and you were Mike Zuglan.
Well, you don't want to leave him a 10 ball because that's a break shot. I would probably go shoot off the 4 and maybe leave him down on the right-hand pocket on the bottom rail.
Well, the 4 ball is the ball to the right of the cue ball. Go ahead.
Right. I'm looking to see if the 4 is dead into the 15, but Mike's going the other way anyway, so. But to see if I think he'll try to leave him by the other pocket. So he left him more. He could make the 10 ball, but there's really other than the 14, which is a possible opportunity.
This is a type of a shot that Zuglan really wouldn't be too concerned about Steve's shooting since it's a very difficult shot. Matter of fact, I don't know if Mike might even want Steve to shoot this shot.
Sometimes we call them the gopher shots or a sucker shot, but I would look for Steve to try to shoot this 10 ball and get on the 14. I don't think he's going to play it defensive, but yeah, you wouldn't want to shoot this one too often. He's very undecided here, so.
Well, Steve's not going to be Buffalo to the shooting this shot.
No.
He's not going to say, well, he's challenging me here to shoot this shot. He's got too much experience for that.
Yeah. No, he's not going to Steve doesn't give games away and fall for that kind of stuff, I know. Then again, you look back, you probably find a lot of big runs coming off of an opportunity just like this. And he is definitely playing this ball, so. And he missed it. And there's Mike with the 14 breaker, so. If that was Mike's strategy, it definitely worked.
Yeah, well, we'll never know if that was a strategy or not. Only he'll be able to tell us the truth there, if he does tell us it. But anyways, he's at the table with a nice shot on the 10. It looks like the 14 to the right of the stack is available to pocket in either the right-hand lower corner pocket or the left-hand side pocket. Now he has an option here. Now he's going to go for the 14 right away.
He's going to break with the 14. Yeah, this is a nice shot. He'll probably slide right over to that right rail. And out in the middle of the table, and he should be perfect.
Right. There was no reason for him to play position on that ball when he already had position.
Right. He was there, and you could tell he was just going to come right out there, and the 3 or the 10 would be wide open. Now he just rolled down. Now he breaks him, and Mike also likes, like Dallas West of U.S. Open fame, he likes to pick away at the balls too, rather than slam into them.
And he also had the 10 ball as an insurance ball. Had he not opened up the stack and had a shot on the other side of the table, he could always shot the 10.
Right, because when he went into that 7 ball, sure, it was a fairly safe shot that he wouldn't be safe with the 10 ball there to bail him out.
Those are little tricks these straight pool players have in their minds all the time,
And it's just the more you play this game, you'll see those tricks.
So therefore, you might say to yourself, if you're playing one of these guys, how come they always get a shot after the break?
You'll think, what a lucky roll he got, but really it wasn't a lucky roll.
Well, he shot
the hard.
Yeah, well, it came right back at him. I don't understand that. But of course, there are certain angles that you shoot. If you shoot them too hard, the pocket will not accept the shot. It minimizes the space in the pocket. It actually makes the pocket play a lot smaller if you hit that shot with some speed. That's what Zuglan did.
Right.
He didn't hit it perfectly true to the pocket.
That ball
and he paid for it.
Good.
That same shot, naturally, if he would have rolled it or hit it with a softer speed, the pocket would have accepted the ball quite easily, but that wasn't the case. Mike shot it with a real hard stroke, and he paid for it. How much he's going to pay for it remains to be seen.
Right. Well, Steve's open, and Steve Mizerak with an open table. Who knows? You can't put a number to what he might run, as we saw last night with his 153 ball run.
Yeah, this is day 2. This is day 2 of the 1993 Snapple Invitational, and Steve Mizerak opened day 1 up with 153 and out on no other than Grady Matthews, the professor.
Yes, that was one of the better games. Unfortunately, we don't have that one on tape. But the crowd loved it. It was a great run. It was fairly effortless. I mean, Steve was not really in trouble. I didn't watch the whole run, but he just pretty much sailed through it.
And then he had nerve enough to say to me before this match, he said, Billy, he says, would you like to bet me dinner that I run 130 in my next 4 matches? I said, Steve, you run 153 in your first match. Why would I want to do that?
Right, that's...
I'll buy you dinner if you want me to.
Yeah, Steve's, he runs the balls. He has a nice little 8 ball here. If this 13 goes, I would look for him to kick the 12 out real nice, knock the 12 out on the right side of the rack, which is just what he did. He went... Now it looks like he's playing for the 15 ball.
And as we look at the monitor, the 15 ball, it's laying pretty nicely right beside the right side of the rack. We can see the diagram, the outline of the rack on the table.
Sure.
And it's definitely a very, very workable break shot.
He'll just stop this 10 ball with, get a little angle on the 9, and he'll probably just shoot the 9 without any rails and get right on the 15. Well, now he has to use a rail because.
Well, he's left-handed. He'll be able to reach this quite easily.
Right. 1 rail and out.
Yep, he's going to go straight, 1 cushion up table and stay in perfect line for the 15 at all times. Okay, this is rack number. That was rack number 2. Steve Mizerak did make a blunder in rack number 1, but fortunately he was able to get back at the table. Zuglan making a blunder of his own gave Steve the opportunity at the table, and now at the rack number 2, it's Zuglan with 19. Steve Mizerak has 8. But more importantly, Steve's at the table with a nice break shot.
I would look for this to be the part of the match where you would see Mizerak try to assert himself. Here's where you need to, put together a nice run against Mike Zuglan.
Yeah, and it's always good if you can run a lot of balls or assert yourself after you're a mistake by your opponent.
Right. If we talked about the old-time pool players such as Joe Balsas, Joe was uncanny for that ability to just put guys away early. You'd be before you got a chair, Joe would have you 70-0, and now you're just constantly fighting to come back, and it's hard and wears you out. Steve opened the balls beautifully. No problems here.
He opened them very nicely, and one other thing that he did very nicely was control the cue ball. Realizing that he had to draw the ball, he realized, I got to draw this shot, so therefore I'm not going to hit it hard enough to go way up table and perhaps leave myself with a difficult shot. He hit the break shot really sweet, opening up the balls very nicely, and has a very nice shot on the 12 or the 13 or even the 2 on the side. He's electing to shoot the 12.
Just come out real nice here, and he has a 10 ball behind the rack break shot if he elected to roll down there off the 13.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that he can do, Frank, and what's going through his mind right now is really hard to read because we're not inside his mind, but I'm sure he'll make the right decisions.
Okay, Steve, it looks like he might be playing a break shot right off of this 13 because, again, he controlled the cue ball fairly well there.
Now, see, I would have never thought of doing that.
Right, I like the shot I was looking at originally coming down for the 10, but he decided to smash him up and got away with it perfect, and there's no hard balls, really.
And it's really difficult to argue with a man with the success that Steve Mizerak has had through the years.
Absolutely. He's in command of himself at all times, and he'll get out of it.
I really couldn't make a good living second guessing Steve Mizerak, that's for sure.
It wouldn't be too successful.
Little stretch here.
Little break shot, potential break shot here. Roll right into the 3 ball. Or 10. He broke up that little problem down behind the rack.
Yeah, that was important for him to loosen up the 10 free from the 9. They were laying awkwardly on the bottom cushion, and he had a perfect opportunity to loosen them 2 balls up, and that's exactly what he's done.
See, now here he has, he's going to roll the ball up real easy. He doesn't have any clusters frozen. So everything's open for Steve with a nice 8 ball. Being a left-hander, he'd want the 8 ball on that side of the rack.
And the position of the 9 allowed him to go into the stack when he did just now, because realizing that after going into the stack, chances of getting a shot were very good since the 9 was right there in front of the corner pocket.
Absolutely. That's a great insurance ball, and that's the players, champions, they do that. They always have that insurance ball. They don't just blindly go into a stack of balls not knowing what to expect. And the more you can do that, the more you'll be able to run balls.
Steve waiting patiently for Jimmy Fusco on the adjacent table. Now he's preparing to shoot the 9.
We'll just roll up here real nice for the 6.
The 6 seems to be the key ball to eliminate from the table because it's blocking the pocket from it's blocking the lower right-hand pocket for the 11.
Now, as I'm looking here, the 3 ball seems to be out of the rack now, but he's going to shoot it right here.
Yeah, you can see on the monitor that the 3 is a workable break shot. He also has an option there with the 8.
Right.
So therefore, he has to make up his mind soon which ball he's going to choose to break with.
Well, I think he's going to leave the 3 and use the 8 as his key ball. Now he just has to shoot that ball on the side right there, and there's only one tough ball top of the table, 4 ball, which is no problem. He seems to shoot so effortless. There's no hard work involved.
He may be playing 3-2-8. I'm not sure. Maybe he'll be playing.
He has a nice choice here. I think he's going to leave the 3. I'll leave myself open a second. Yes. No, he's going to go with the 2 ball. I thought he'd leave the 2 last. He'll probably go 2-8-3. Sure.
2-8-3 is the route that he's chosen. It looks like it appears to be, at least at this point, the route that he's chosen. But of course, he's been known to fool people at times.
Right.
And there is a method to his madness when everything is done and said.
Okay, I expect his cue ball to be right back where it's at now for this next shot.
approximately
Right
in the
there.
same vicinity that
Look
he's
at this,
shooting
like,
the 8 in from, and the
right
cue
on
ball.
the money.
Right on the
Two
money.
revs out of line, and that's perfection there.
And that's
sailed through
another rack for Steve Mizerak. After rack number 3, Steve Mizerak now has the lead 22-18.
Seems to be going without any flaws, and just like last night, that's the way it started. He was just effortless, and the next thing you know, the game was over. But you know, again, if Mike gets a shot, Mike will make the best of it. Look for that same draw shot that he hit in the last rack. Just come back out real nice.
He's gone
He
forward.
didn't draw it.
Now he's got himself a combination. Maybe the 1 does pass the 6 into the lower right-hand corner. As we look at the monitor, it appears from at least the way we look at the monitor, that it has room to pass. He's shooting it, and it looks like it does have room.
It is wide open. Now he'll shoot the 6 ball next, and I don't know if he'll decide to just roll up into the balls right here real easy, or come out middle table, which is what he decided to do.
Now this could be dangerous, Frank, if he goes into the balls here, because there's no guarantee he's going to come out with a shot.
Exactly.
So he's going to have to stroke it real hard, I would imagine, get some action.
He went right through him, and as you said, whether he got a roll, he does have a long shot, 2 ball up the top of the table, which shouldn't be no problem if that's what he decides to shoot.
Because there really wasn't a guarantee that he was going to come away with a shot after shooting that break shot.
Because he didn't have that insurance ball we were talking about.
Exactly. So therefore, he was gambling a little bit, but it was a good time for him to go into the balls, because he's got a real good, solid stroke. Gets plenty of action on the cue ball, and realizing with his stroke he could go through the balls, and he did manage to get through the balls enough to where he came up with some type of a shot, and I guess it wasn't good enough.
He decided to play the combination rather than shoot the 2 straight in the corner, and he just jawed the pocket over there. And Mike is wide open.
Yeah, a very disgruntled Steve Mizerak shows us that he wants to eat the ball. Did you get that, Rick?
And that's exactly the type of thing you don't want to do against Mike Zuglan, because you don't know when you're ever going to get up again.
Mike Zuglan breathing a sigh of relief as he comes to the table, realizing that, the last time he was at the table, the error that he made could have been his last opportunity at the table. But fortunately for Zuglan, Steve returned to favor with an unforced error of his own, giving Mike a nice opportunity.
Okay, Mike looks like he might start out his run with shooting the 8 ball in the side pocket there.
Now you can bet that if Mike Zuglan gets the type of a shot that he failed to pocket the last time he was at the table, he'll take a little more time with the shot and make sure that he hits it with better speed.
Absolutely.
Because he's no fool. He'll definitely learn from his mistake.
It's very important to do. If you make it twice, you're not going to be the player of the caliber of Steve Mizerak. But as I look at the table now, Billy, I don't see that ideal break shot as Mike would probably like. It's a good possibility he could elect to leave the 14 for behind the rack breaker, or try to manufacture one. But the way the 14's laying, I would like to have that as a breaker right now.
It seems of the remaining balls on the table, the 14 definitely is a potential break shot, along with the 15 on top of the rack. But I think the 14 is a ball it's a little easier to play position for breaking the balls with.
Right. No. It's the kind of shot where you could just get behind there and not hit it, but
and he's eliminating that ball right now.
He made us wrong, so
well,
evidently he believes that 2 ball is open. Is that the 4 ball, by the way? He must believe that 4 ball is out.
Well, let's play particularly close attention. Let's get the overhead view on this, Rick. This is the view I like right in here.
It looks marginal to me.
We're going to go to school right now and see how he plays this and what's really in his mind right now as he runs the remaining 3 balls leading up to the break shot.
What he might elect to do is try to improve it off the 15 right now and kiss into the 2, but then he would leave himself not a long shot on the 5, but you won't know, can't guarantee the exact angle.
Well, I'll tell you what, he's got himself in a decent position to kiss the 4 out slightly, which he's done, leaving himself a rather long shot on the 5. Maybe he's going to have to cut this into the side pocket.
Right, that's the shot. He'll go 2 rails, and just spin this cue ball and 2 rails and get right on the break shot.
Well, he used
Right.
pure imagination
That's what
running
that-
those balls and coming up with this break shot. This is something that he did create, and he has certainly earned his position here.
Right.
After rack number 4, I believe it is, Frank, it's now
It-
Zuglan with 28, Steve Mizerak with 27. After scratching one off to his side of the scoreboard, he's left with 27.
This looks like a game that's gonna be nip
26
and
now.
tuck.
No, 27.
That's
The scoreboard's
Scoreboard.
blinking. 27, 26. It's back to 26. It doesn't know whether to give it to him or not. I
Mike-
believe he has 27.
Mike has left himself a nice angled break,
Good. This
break
is the
shot on the 4.
this is the ball he missed last time, the 4 ball.
He'll probably have to draw this ball. Looks kind of low. I think he'll hit this one fairly hard. He's end up in real nice shape. He's left himself to 15 inside if he needs it.
I believe the 7 will pass into the lower right-hand corner pocket. That's the ball on the right-hand side of the rack. I believe that 9 ball is no, the 9 ball. That's not the 9. It must be the 11.
Yes, he'll probably shoot the 8 ball now as a breaker, and just there's no problems there, and he'll just break up the middle of stack here real nice.
Well, they opened up
Yeah.
nicely, but he got a kiss there and it shoved them behind some balls. I don't know if he has a combination 9-13. Now the 9 ball is positioned under or below the 5 and 1. The 13 is in front of the pocket.
Or he could shoot the 15. That's the 10 ball dead straight in the side pocket up there. That's probably what he's going to do. And if he follows through with this, he has a little bit of a breaker on that cluster of balls down here.
With the 2 as an insurance ball.
Right. Yes.
Once you bypass the 5, I don't think. Well, he still has a shot on the 2, I do believe. Maybe he doesn't. He doesn't seem like he's really happy about the results here. Now he's looking at the other side of the table and hopes they have some sort of a shot on the 13. By his body language, Frank, it doesn't
No.
appear that he has anything he likes.
He might have a real first shot here on a 13 and come out on the middle of the table. It depends on if he wants to try to hold this up or just let it roll. But it was definitely a real first shot.
And it's a good call, Frank. Rail first is exactly what you said, and that's exactly what he did.
Now-
Rail first.
Another little breaker here on the 11 ball if he comes underneath the 1, as long as he avoids the kiss.
And he doesn't want to get too deeply behind the 9. If he does that, he might find himself underneath the 9, 7, and 5. He would like to hit the 9 on the side and then softly come up table
Right.
like he's done.
Exactly what he did. He executed that shot perfectly. Didn't turn the cue ball loose. It was a break shot, but yet he was under control.
Now the balls seem to have worked their way open a lot better than
No, there's
what
no.
he had before. This is very workable here. If he can
I guess
clear that 15 out of there some way, I think that the entire rack now will be open.
he doesn't like the 7 as a breaker because it's too low to the rack. There's his 15 open. Now.
Yeah, he wants to play
He-
shape on the 15 because he wants to get rid of that ball. That'll open up the pocket for the 9 and the 5 that was once there, but now has been eliminated from that area. But the 15 is the ball he would really like to shoot.
Okay, and now his next problem, what he'd like to do is get rid of the 2 ball, which is down here by the rail, because that'll open up the pocket for 14. He'll go up top of the table and back down.
And he would like to end up with a shot on the 2,
And there it goes right there.
but he has to be careful with this shot. He knows that this is the kind of an angle that you really can't roll it and you don't want to hit it hard.
He just
He's-
stalled it. He could hit the ball below center and just stalled it real nice. And put the
And that's one of the reasons why that particular shot played a lot more difficult than it had appeared, because controlling the cue ball on that shot was somewhat of a problem. He was laying in between a lag and shooting it a little harder.
And that
So
caused him to roll too far down for the 9 ball. So he had to jack up on the 9, and now he'd like to get the 6 out of the way. That's another fairly bad ball, but the 5 ball's laying perfect for him on the right side for the break shot, so I believe that's what he'll do.
Let's get an overhead view of the remaining balls on the table after he shoots the 6 in here, Rick. Take a look at exactly how
Sure.
the 5 does lay in relation to the corner ball, the corner ball in the rack. And I believe, Frank, that the 5 ball is workable.
Right, what he'll do is go up for the 14 now, straight on the 14, and then come down for his 1 ball as a key ball. That's exactly what he did.
Very nice cue ball control,
Right.
both direction and speed. It looks like he's in pretty good line on the 14. He's not straight, so
He's-
therefore he can come off the side cushion and get a little closer to the 1, where the cushion won't hamper his bridge.
I believe the in the gambler's term, Mike Zuglan would be a tremendous overlay if you were looking to bet him against Steve Mizerak. Because Mike just plays excellent. Two rails and out, and he's right on the 5. And Mike's control this match at this point. See, Mike Zuglan is one of the few players, I would believe, I'm sure you'd agree with me, Billy, that doesn't fear Steve Mizerak. I'm sure he respects him as well as anyone respects him, but you can't fear him, and certain players do. And
well, Mike Zuglan really wouldn't be the player that he is if he had fear of Steve Mizerak, or for that matter, any other player in the world that exists. Mike Zuglan is a quality player. Mike Zuglan may even be a great player. He just doesn't play on the tour or in as many major tournaments as the other players do. And if he did, I'm certainly sure he would be a household name himself.
Right. You can definitely see, Mike smiling during the rack, and he's definitely confident. And there, I believe he made a mistake. He was low on the break shot and didn't hit it hard enough, and left himself an extremely tough 15-ball shot up top of the table from the rail.
Now, see, on that shot, I may have scratched. After going into the balls, I may have gone somewhere and scratched. But I guarantee you this: I would have opened up the balls.
Yes, that was the kind of shot. When that break shot is a little low, you definitely tend to hit it harder. But if Mike can get an angle on the 14, which he did, he seems to be fine.
Okay, now he's got to play very accurately from this position, because I don't believe there's too many balls that will go, and he really doesn't have that many choices, and he has to break loose some balls out of the stack, so he has to play pretty accurately here on the 9. I believe he has to go around, playing position for the 9 in the same pocket.
Right, he's going 2 rails here, and then I don't know if I assume.
Well, he's got the angle.
He definitely has the angle to cut the 9 ball and do a lot of damage, but I'm afraid it might be to himself.
Yeah, it looks like the shot is very, very risky. It's too high risk, I would imagine, for him to attempt it. As we look at the monitor, it appears like it's almost impossible to make, but of course, that's not really the angle that he sees at the table.
Plus, here's a shot where if you're turning your cue ball loose, you have nothing, you don't know what to expect after you do make the 9, if you make it.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to go into the 13, the ball that's on top of the 9, slightly to the left and on the top of the 9. After going into the 13, that corner pocket plays very big, maybe the side pocket. Who knows what's going to happen to the cue ball here? Let's see what he does. He's kicking.
He's playing a
here.
kick
The 9
combination. I believe it's a 9 ball. He called it and made it.
Now, how about that?
A beautiful shot by Mike. Obviously, the ball was dead if he made the right hit, and he certainly did. And now he's left himself open.
Well, that's the man's perspicacity. He's able to see things while he's at the table that, a lot of players would never recognize.
Right, and now he's allowed himself to get open again, and he's proceeding to run some balls here.
And not only do you have to be able to understand and know what balls will go, you have to be able to execute that shot too, in order to stay in control of the table.
Right, because that was a shot where you didn't want to hit it too hard because the cue ball might bounce off the rail. Yet you want to make sure you hit hard enough to break them up, and he did both.
And you still have to hit it well enough to kick it accurately. And that's another skill which obviously he has developed. He can kick, and he knows when a ball is fairly dead.
He has a perfect 2 ball sitting out there for the breaker for next rack. He needs to go on top of the table, get the 1 ball out of there, which he could maybe do it right now. I would probably get this ball out right now. But Mike obviously is not worried about the 1 ball, and I think he's going to leave the 6 ball for a breaker. So I'd look for him to go his last 2 balls 6-4. I mean 1-4, and then get on the 6 ball breaker. Now, I don't know if you remember, Billy, it was the World Straight Pool Tournament, I believe it was summer of 1985 in Philadelphia, where the finals ended up with Alan Hopkins and Varner, with Varner being the winner. But in that event, Mike Zuglan had the tournament high run of 133 balls, which he did against Mike Siegel, and lost the game.
That's incredible.
I was there. I watched that tournament, and I remember that match very well. Mike Zuglan just seems like whenever he goes to a major tournament, he snaps off a big run. Last summer, it was 148 balls in New York City in the U.S. Open. And
Mike Zuglan definitely makes his presence felt regardless of where he goes and who he plays. And this is another indication of his presence right now after, I think, the rack number 5, I believe it is, Zuglan now leads in the match 56-27.
Sure, and that's another thing. Michael, he will make some of his biggest runs against big-name players. And there's a lot of players out there that could run balls against a lesser player, but then when you put them up against a Mizerak or a Siegel, they can't do it. But Mike can do it against anyone.
Right. You seem to forget what you know when you're playing a guy that you're intimidated with.
Exactly.
And Mike Zuglan really, like you mentioned before, really doesn't have the fear that he's supposed to have. But why is he supposed to have it? Because he's a great player himself, and he knows it.
If you look at him, he's just, his demeanor is just like very casual, and you don't see anything that would suggest fear. Another perfect break shot for Mike. A nice angle where he'll have to follow through the pack. He went right through him and caught the top of the rack and right out in the middle of the table, and he's perfect again.
I don't know what can go on the left side of the table for him. 14 might be able to pass the 8.
It looks.
It's pretty close.
He is lining it up, so it does look like from here it's close. Mike is in a position right now, I believe, where he's threatening to break this game open. I mean, the score right now is fairly even, but the way he's playing right now, and he's not making any mental mistakes, and we could be looking at a nice run right here.
He seems very relaxed.
Absolutely.
At this time, which is a strong indication that he definitely is a threat to put a big hurting on Steve Mizerak right now. But of course, either one of these two players is a threat to win the match and run out the entire game when they're at the table, regardless of the score. But Mike Zuglan has that demeanor, like you alluded to, is right now. He looks very comfortable. He's thinking well. He's shooting well, and Steve Mizerak is sweating it out in the chair right now.
Mike, he has the balls open right now, real good. He has his choice, really. I mean, he has balls open. The 15's perfect, the 10's perfect, or that's the 12. I would think Mike would want the 15, being a right-handed player that he is. Just nudge out this 4 ball, and there really isn't a hard ball left for this rack anymore.
Mike Zuglan certainly is a student of the game.
As we take a close-up look at the 15, is just dead perfect for where he would want to be for the next rack. Just nothing fancy. You just the cue ball's never out of control, and that's the big key to straight pull. You watch Mike play. You never watch it. He doesn't make a really dumb mistake, a mental mistake. He might miss a ball here and there, but he doesn't do things that are dumb.
Well, he certainly hasn't earned the reputation that he's earned by doing stupid or dumb things. Definitely an experienced player.
Now he's just going to get these 2 balls on the back rail, the 5 and 13 out of the way. The 3 balls open, 11's open to his left pockets.
There's another point that you brought up a little earlier that really makes the difference of a champion and a wannabe champion. A wannabe champion may have the skills and the ability to win championships, but some reason he can't keep it together mentally when he's at the table playing a household name, particularly a guy like Steve Mizerak. If something happens to that person, he blows it. He loses it mentally, and he forgets how to play. That's not true with Mike Zuglan.
And that's why it was an impressive win last night, our first round or second round, with the local player J.R. Gay playing Steve Mizerak. Mizerak's coming off a 153 ball run, and obviously J.R. was not affected by that at all and proceeded to win the match with a nice 65 and out. So I'm sure J.R. was happy as can be this morning. I talked to him, but I'm sure going into the match, he was all butterflies.
And that's one of the qualities you really look for when you look at someone. do they have the composure to win? Because composure, I believe composure is probably the most important ingredient to becoming a champion.
Absolutely, and I know personally JR, and I've watched him play a lot of years, and he definitely has it. He really believes in himself, and if he gets a chance to play, he could beat these big name players. Mike didn't shoot the 15, leave the 15s, I believe, but what he did was he left his cue ball in the rack, which is perfect. He has 11 ball, perfect ball in hand behind the line, and he'll just maybe draw back a little bit. And he went forward with this one.
He executed that shot absolutely perfectly. And once again, he's at the table with the balls open, cue ball not near a cushion, definitely has a nice shot. He's executing perfectly, and he's thinking very, very, very good.
I mean, everything's is going good for him right now. He's not struggling. I believe he'll. I thought he would try to use his 5 for a breaker, but evidently he's not.
If he uses the 5 for a breaker now, he runs the risk of locking himself up somewhere. But of course, I don't know how many more options he has available. Let's see what he does.
Yes, he
has
did.
to go into the stack. See, that was a
Dodged
little
a
bit
bullet
risky.
there. That's exactly what we were talking about by turning the cue ball loose. I mean, Mike very easily could have scratched in that side pocket. But
now, had he had an insurance ball there, he wouldn't have had to stroke it as hard as he did, knowing that after going into the rack, he would have an insurance ball to shoot. But he didn't have that insurance ball, so therefore he had to put a little extra into it, saying, I got to get away from the rack now, so I'm going to try to put a little extra into it in hopes that nothing, freakish happens to me here.
And he hit the ball perfect, so that would have been a bad break had he scratched.
Steve Mizerak, before he shot that shot, realized that there was a chance for him to get back at the table.
His eyes sort of opened up watching that cue ball go towards the hole. But here's where I said before, as far as Zuglan being in a position where he could almost break the game open. I mean, he's quietly give himself just about a 50-ball lead, and he's showing no signs of weakening.
Do you know offhand, Frank, what the score was when Zuglan came to the table? He was behind at one time.
Mike was down. I believe we were the last one. The scoreboard was blinking on and off. I think it was 27 apiece or 27-26 Mizerak, but it was like one ball difference.
But that's after Mike had already run some balls,
Mike might have run. I don't know if he ran that rack or not, so he could be on.
He's on 50 for sure.
Yes, for sure.
So let's just put it at 24, and we'll stand to be corrected later. 24, he now has 74, which means he's run 50 balls, and we're probably off a few balls, but I'm sure someone will correct us later on.
Yeah, and he could be running 100 the way he's going. And this 50-ball run has gone just about smooth. He had a manufactured couple break shots.
The only risk he ran was just in this rack here when he allowed the cue ball to get away from him and almost scratched in his side. But other than that, he's been playing flawlessly.
Now here, I believe Mike wanted to leave the 6-ball for a break shot, but he has to take that out of the way now. But he's still fine with the 2-ball. You just get the 7 out of the way right now, and the 2 stand there by itself.
Notice positioning the cue ball absolutely perfectly for the 7 to eliminate the 7. That's the problem ball, the 7. Now that's gone, and the remainder of the rack, is ABC. At least it is for a guy like Mike Zuglan.
Oh, just stop. Next few balls. 4-15. He'll shoot the 8-ball on the side. Probably uses 12-ball as the key ball. Or what he could also do, Billy, here he could shoot the 15 right now. 15, 12, 8. Shoot the 12 on the side. That looks like a better option than shooting the 12 in the corner here. Which is exactly what he's going to do.
Very little cue ball movement, so therefore he opted to take the pattern with that offered him the littlest cue ball movement. Therefore, he's always in line. Little movement to the right, little movement to the left, and he finally ended up with the 8. Came off the cushion 1.5 feet, and now he's got himself in perfect line once again.
He's just not a mistake. Just everything in total command right now from Mike. And again, I wouldn't consider Steve out of the match with his explosive power, but
he has to get to the table.
He can't shoot from where he's sitting.
No. Right now, we have Mike on 58, give or take a couple balls. And so with the score now being Mizerak 26 to Mike Zuglan's 82. Mike needs now 68 more balls to shut Steve out.
Oh,
I think that's what Steve's concerned about right now, getting back to the table.
Right. Mike doesn't show no signs of giving that up soon. On the table next to Mike right now, we have the local player, as I just mentioned, J.R. Gay, playing Lou Butera in a 9-ball match. And if he runs the 8 and 9 here, he will be ahead 10-2 over Mr. Butera. So J.R. plays all the games. He's not just a straight pool player.
No, he's not, and he's very well respected in the Cleveland area.
Oh,
now,
absolutely.
Now, notice the cue ball, Mike Zuglan. That was one of the very rare times we'll see Mike Zuglan lose the cue ball off of the break.
But what he did, he drew the cue ball back, and it just took too much. And now he's left himself in a difficult, long table, probably 4-ball shot, unless he sees something dead in the rack. It looks like he's lining up to 15, but
he's lining up something. Steve's looking at him. Let's take a look at Steve in his chair, Rick, to find out how he feels about this situation. Now, there he is. Now, there's a very composed Steve Mizerak. Even though he trails in the match 83-26, you really can't tell by the expression on his face.
No, it looks like you could see concentration there. I had mentioned earlier today that some players, when their opponent is running balls on them, their mind tends to wander and they start watching other matches. Well, Steve's right into this game right now. And Mike just shot that 4-ball as if it was a hanger.
Yeah, he executed the shot perfectly, hit it very cleanly into the pocket. There was no doubt as soon as he hit the ball where the ball was going, in the heart of the pocket. And another indication that he's really focused right now and prepared to maybe even shut Steve out.
This could be a little risky. Billy is using a bridge over a ball, bridge stretching. We talked about stretching today, and look, here's another situation where that's a very bad shot Mike tried there.
I don't know what he had in mind there, Frank. What do you think he had in mind when he shot that shot?
Well, it looks like he was trying to get the right-hand English on that ball there to try to make it come off the back rail into the 5, where he could break the balls. But at that speed, he couldn't get the English to take. And
that was a risky shot to even think of doing something like that. Now this is really a difficult shot. He has to come with it.
In the jaws of the pocket. This shooting the 6-ball, which is almost dead straight on.
Now he's reminiscent of a 9-ball player here. This is what 9-ball players look like when they're at the table.
This is what they mean when they talk about coming with the shot. Mike missed it bad, and that was that mental mistake we were talking about that allowed Mizerak back to the table. So this match is not over.
Well, he put about 60 or 60-plus balls on Steve after Steve missed the shot that he missed.
Steve is finally staring at the scoreboard, wondering what he needs to get back in this match. He needs a lot of balls. The score is 85-27.
No, Steve, the scoreboard. The scoreboard seems to be malfunctioning, and that's what Steve was concerned about. I don't think he was concerned about how many more balls he needs to get back into the match, because the way he thinks that that doesn't matter how many balls he needs, he's going to run out.
Right. It's like one mediocre inning and I'm out. That's many times than not, or more often than not, that's the case. But it is stuck on 27, so that was the right score.
The 10 and the 12 and the 13, the 2 balls that are above the 8 and to the left of the 8 seem to be a little tied up.
Right.
So therefore, he's going to have to break loose those balls soon.
Well, if he looks like he's shooting the 9-ball, he has another problem. He has 2 balls on the back rail, the 5 and the 7, which need to be taken out. Or he could break the 2 clustered balls right now off the 14. I believe he'll roll right up into them to break them out of the way. Which he
missed it.
He didn't do that.
He wanted to hit the top of the 12 ball.
Now he's left himself a fairly almost straight 8-ball,
but both balls will go in the lower right-hand corner, so therefore he does have an out here.
He's I don't know what he's planning with for those 2 balls, but
and the more balls he eliminates from the table, the more of a problem the 13 and 12 become. Now he's going to try to break loose the 12 from the 13 on this shot.
Sure, he'll go with the low right-hand English here and just draw right up into that first ball, 12 ball, which and he not only missed the break shot, he missed the ball.
And so it was the problem with the 12 and 13 that created the problem on the 10 ball.
See, it was that 14 ball that I thought that he would use to break him. When he failed on that, he just opened up the door for more problems, and now he's missed the ball, and that could be trouble. Mike is not going to make another mental mistake as he did before. But
Yeah,
now,
it was very unusual to see Steve Mizerak miss the 10 ball, especially by the margin that he missed it by. And he didn't even break the
no,
the
that's what I
13
was
and the 12
surprised
ball.
at. Very surprising he didn't break those 2 balls. Now Mike is presented with that same problem because those 2 balls are still there, but as you said, they will. The 13 will go.
But the 10 blocks the pocket. They will go if he eliminates the 10.
Yeah, I thought the 13 would go on, and he has a break shot right here off the 15. And
he
he,
tried to
believe it
hit
or not, has done the identical thing Steve did.
Mm-hmm. Now he definitely has a legitimate problem.
I don't.
Unless he plays the 6 now. If he plays the 6 now, he then can take care of the problem because
Right.
he's got an ideal angle.
If he goes, he's going to break them in the 6 ball in the corner right now and probably go into those 2 balls, which is a fairly safe shot as a breaker. So that was a real nice shot Mike just made now, because again it was safe.
Do you use the 13 to break the balls with here? I mean, that's sort of a...
Well, I'm sure he's going to try to get on to 12 now, and then he'll get an angle for 13, and it's fairly close to the rail. So, but that looks like a good. That's one of them shots where you would probably turn the cue ball loose and draw out and try to really smash the rack up pretty good.
And by electing to choose this type of a break shot, he was almost forced to choose this break shot. But anyways, this break shot, you really can't depend on where the cue ball is going to go. I mean, there's a little risk to this shot, more so than most other break shots.
Because you have to hit the cue ball fairly hard because it's a thin cut, so therefore you have to hit it harder to make the ball. And you're guessing, you're turning it loose here, and probably I would say more times than not you'll come away with shots, but you wouldn't want to have this shot too often.
No, I would venture to say that he's probably a 90% favored to come away with this with a shot. 9 out of 10 times at least, he should come away with this come away from the table with a shot and without scratching, because even a scratch can be a possibility here. Who knows? He's going to have to hit with some speed.
See, Mike might come off the rail into the 7 ball. If he comes off into this, that's the right way to play the shot.
Another kiss.
Angle into the
okay,
corner.
Now he's in the stack here. He can't see the 5.
Nope. No.
Okay, he can see the 1, but that's certainly not an easy shot.
That's a severe cut over the rack. He's going to try to, I don't know if he has to stretch for this 11 ball, but this is also a severe cut. But I believe Mike is shooting over the ball, but he'll make this. He'll use low left-hand English and just cut this ball right
Seems to be comfortable in reaching the shot.
Come underneath the 1, and he's back right out there in center table with perfect 1-ball shots. As I said before, I don't think Mike's going to make that one bad mental mistake again that he did before when he left himself in the jaws of the pocket. He has a perfect 15 right straight inside.
Now from this angle we see that he can shoot either the 8 or the 15.
Yes, he's elected to shoot the 15, maybe take the 4 out of the way now, or I wouldn't think he'd go into. Here comes a stretching him. No, he's fine. Mike controls that cue ball very, very well.
He's shooting the 5 here. See, now I would think about going into the balls off of the 7, maybe shooting the 12 and coming down for a little bit and shooting the 7 and breaking the balls up in this fashion, because he's got a pretty good shot on the 12 to play good shape for the 7 right now.
He's not going to do that, but he could have come right off the rail and used the 7. He's not straight on his 12, so now he'll have to go into the stack now and draw this cue ball over.
There he goes. He's going to have to stroke this one well.
Right inside the 9 and the 7.
He may have a problem here, Frank.
He didn't really come away with a shot. He has the 3 ball, I don't believe, will go in that side pocket.
The 8 blocks the corner pocket for the 9. He cannot pocket the 9 in the corner pocket. The 8 precludes him from being able to do that.
He's going with
the 9 in the side. Maybe.
Yes, that's a rough shot, rough cut. But he pulled it off with no problem.
Difficult shot, and one that Steve figured he may miss.
Now he'll just roll up there. I believe if he wanted, he could use the 3 ball to kick the 14 out. Or he's definitely going to break up to 14. 'Cause now he either has a perfect 8 ball break shot, or he's going to have to use the 10 down behind the rack breaker.
Oh, that's a difficult break
See
shot.
the way
The
these
10.
balls are laying, Billy, I would like to just leave my 14 as a key ball and use the 8 as a breaker.
It's not a bad idea. I
But
think it looks about
I don't
as
think Mike's
good
thinking-
as anything else. He doesn't seem to like that, or at least at the moment I thought he didn't, because he would look like he was preparing to eliminate the 14 at that time.
That's a fairly safe out. It's just 7, 10, 6. There he is lining
Yeah.
up that shot right now. And
Mhm.
I believe that's the best breaker on the table, the way that they're laying.
Once again, you picked out the shot that he probably is going to end up with, and that's the 8 ball in the side pocket.
So he'll just leave himself a little angle here off the 10 ball, roll up on top of the table.
Now the position on the 14 is the key to this. He's going to have to try to obtain a straight shot on the 14
Exactly.
in order to get little movement out of the cue ball after pocketing the 14, which will keep him in the same area, or approximately the same area that the 14 is in now. For position on the
He doesn't
eights.
want to be too much on our left side of the 14, which he didn't. He's absolutely perfect. He'll stop this cue ball dead, and there's this perfect angle for the 8.
Notice the cue ball placement once again.
Oh,
He
yeah.
had to get almost straight in on the 14, and that's exactly where he has gotten himself, straight in on the 14, and stopping the cue ball in perfect line for an ideal break shot.
He now has. I believe he'll go into this bunch with authority, because he's going to try to pick away a few balls off of this.
Steve Mizerak with 31 balls, Mike Zuglan 106, and at the table looking to get more.
Mike played another excellent match here. So far, he's only made that one bad mental error, but other than that, he played a fairly flawless game.
Yeah, really, you really can't penalize him for the 4-ball combination that he missed. He just hit it a little too hard. The pocket wouldn't accept the shot. He hit it accurately enough for it to fall, but with the speed that he hit it, it precluded him from pocketing the 4-ball. But the only other mistake that he made, which really was a mistake, was with the bridge.
Yeah, he tried to break that rack up at the bridge and didn't come off too well. But here he hit that 8-ball perfect, and he could go. I would say he'd use this 5-ball right now and draw into the pack again. It's a fairly safe opportunity.
Well, once again,
Sure.
I like to allude to the fact that this is a round-robin tournament. Both Mizerak and Zuglan have records of 3-1. This is a very big match for both players. They have identical records of 3-1. Now, Lou Butera, coming into this round of play, had a record of 4-0, but he was just defeated by Junior Gay, and now his record stands at 4-1.
Right.
Zuglan will also be 4-1 if he goes on and defeats Mizerak, which will put him in the lead, tied with Lou Butera.
That's going to be one strong finish. We have a lot of top players up there. Okay, Mike just rolled up. He has the perfect 14 ball straight in the hole in the side pocket. He has a nice 2-ball outside for his next breaker, if that's what he wants to leave. No, he selected to take the ball in the middle of the table out there. He's going in the corner with his 15 ball. He wants to get the 4 off. That's the only fairly bad ball on the table right now. I would think would be the 4 ball by the side rail, but it's off the rail, so it won't present him any problem. And he'll do that right now.
Let's take a look at the overhead view, Rick, and find out exactly how the balls lay here. The 2-ball is very workable as a break shot. He's even bumped it a little further to the left and down more on the rack, making it more appealing.
Made it perfect right there with that little kiss.
And plus, he's gotten himself in pretty good line to shoot the 10, and so he can now eliminate the 10, which will open up the pocket for the 9-13.
Mike has it together in this game, and it's going to be almost impossible for Mizerak to come back in this match. Mike's too much in control of his game tonight. He'll go in the side pocket. There's a little bit of over the ball shot here, which I don't believe he wanted that, but if he stops the cue ball fairly dead and he has this nice angle, he's fine. no rails and just slide right over. Well, I'm wrong. Well, Mike decided to use the rail, but he ended up perfect. So
yeah, he had a little more of an angle than he
yes.
wanted, but of course it was workable, as we have just seen.
Again,
Zuglan,
I was going to say again, he's perfect on the break shots.
Zuglan now has a very commanding lead of 118 to 31. And now with this break shot, this will put him 14 balls closer, providing that he does run the rack to 150. He will have 132 after this rack if he's able to put down the break shot and run the remaining balls. Let's take a look at it.
To have a 100-ball lead on Mizerak at this stage of the match, I would believe tonight is fairly insurmountable. Just he followed through him. He could have caught a bad roll there, but
he may have caught a bad roll unless he can see the 11. Well, he can see the.
Can he see the
7?
14?
The 7 goes.
7 straight in. Okay, he's fine then. He has a choice here. He can use the 11 and roll down. The 13 is open. So I believe he'll do that. I don't think he'd try to turn the cue ball loose here and break him. Well, so he did. He came down for the 1. We have a good view of the table here. It's still too early. He does not have a perfect ball outside the rack yet for a break shot, but he'll go into him here with his 13 and maybe something will come out. I thought he'd go into that bunch right there, but decided to play shape on the 6 instead.
He's just picking these balls off. He doesn't seem to think there's any urgency at all to the balls.
I'm looking at this rack like to try to get a ball in position for a breaker, but Mike is just going about his business. And
notice the position of the 10 and the 5. He could knock the 5 down after playing the 10 on the side for a break.
That would be a perfect
possibility if he gets in the right position to do that. But he has to eliminate the 14 ball. That's a big ball. He'll have to eliminate that ball. It opens up the pocket for the 3 and the 15. He's going to eliminate that ball now.
Oh, he's drawing underneath now.
And maybe he's going to come around playing position for the 10 on the side, knocking it down the 5 for the break shot, now that the pocket is open for the 7 and the 3 and the 15.
Sure, you could do that right here with his 8.
Okay, he's electing to shoot the 2. And he's going to clear the balls in this fashion.
Well, with the 15 being open here, I don't know if he could kiss the 3 out. Yeah, that's exactly what he did. He knocked the 3 out, but it's still on the line, so he's not out of the water yet.
No, he's very unhappy that he didn't push the 3 a little further over.
Plus, he knocked it low. I thought he'd want to knock it higher. Well, at last resort, Mike has a perfect 9 ball. I mean, if he wants to use a 9, he could. Well, there it is. It goes a 9 ball. He knocked the 3 out perfect now.
Yes, he did. He shot that shot absolutely perfectly with his execution. And
10 and 8, 5 are open for the side, so he doesn't have to break them at all, and that's exactly what he'll do now. He just played an excellent game. He'll just roll this 10 ball up. 12 will be straight in the side, and he's on yet another break shot.
There's another perfect example of how discerning of a player he actually is and how accurately he does play this game.
He went through that rack really beautiful.
Well, he's gotten himself in good position now. It's 132 to 31, needing only 18 balls to close out Steve Mizerak. He has a nice break shot, which can give him a potential 14 more. Then he has to go into another rack, where he'll only need 4 balls after he runs this rack if he is able to put this break shot down and come up with a shot.
On our end table down here, we have the other local player, Rich Zaleski, who was a last-minute replacement for Alan Hopkins, playing a 9-ball match with Pat Fleming. This is a really excellent match. The score right now is Fleming 10, Zaleski 9. But Zaleski is at the table running out.
And Lesky has been making a charge at Fleming. I think at one time in this match, Fleming had a very, very large lead of 10-6 or so. Now it's 10-9, and Lesky at the table, looking to close it to within one game of winning the match and stealing it away from Pat. In the meantime, Zuglan just broke the balls, opened up the balls very nicely, and it looks like he's got his work clothes back on and preparing himself to run through these racks.
Yeah, it's a nice 10 ball. The 12 ball seems to be wide open behind the rack here. You can use a 6 to get on that.
Well, he's got to be careful here. He's got to be careful here.
Turned the cue ball a little more loose than he wanted to on that one, Billy. And I don't know yet. He could still make the 6, I believe, but he'll have to shoot over the ball, over the 11 ball.
He's very unhappy by the expression on his face. He's saying to Steve, I wanted to get the middle table, the center table. He says, look where the cue ball is. I missed my position by a good 1.5 feet, 2 feet. He says, how do you account for that? A man playing as perfectly as he's been playing, one would think that he's would have come a lot closer to the area than that.
Well, he's all right now. He has the 8 ball. He can shoot into the side pocket, and I don't know what his options are from there. The ball's down here.
Well, you know, he eliminated the 6 ball, which was one of the balls he was relying on using offensively or in some fashion later on in the rack.
What he did was he tried to break up that cluster that was behind the rack, and it came away nice because he opened up the 4 to where it can go now, and 7 ball's dead straight in the hole.
But if you notice, Frank, after making the mistake in his position play, forcing himself to shoot the 6, the remainder of the rack seems to be playing a lot more difficult. He seems to be really laboring out there right now, trying to figure out how he's going to get through the rack.
This has by far been his hardest rack of the match. I mean, he's just, you know, he's sensing he's that close to winning, I think, and it's just becoming that much more difficult for him.
That's a nice stroke right there.
Held it up. He couldn't hold it up to get an angle, so he's going to have to go down here and see if he can get an angle on that 4 ball.
Okay, whatever the balls have to offer at this time, he's gotten himself in a pretty good line to take advantage of it. I mean, if there's anything out there, he certainly has a good line on the 7 ball to take care of.
Right. Now, he does have an angle on the 4, so he'll break up these 2, the 13 and the 10 over here. Or that's the 12. 13
well, let me ask you this question, Frank. Why wouldn't he have just played position on the 7 to break open the balls at that time?
On that last shot, that would have been a good option, right? And go into the 1 and break them.
Yeah, I don't understand why he didn't play position to do that.
I don't understand. I don't know, but he decided to come down to get out the 2 balls in this cluster, and he's left himself a severe cut. I believe the 13 ball will go. But
looks like it's a combination.
Sure.
Playing the combination, and
Mike is definitely struggling this rack, and he's still, you know, he's still in control of it. I mean, he has a shot, he has a couple shots, and.
But if you keep in mind, he still must go into the next rack.
Right, he's at 140 right now, so he just doesn't need to make a dumb mistake now to where Steve gets another shot.
And he doesn't have a break shot, so not only does he have to run the remaining balls on the table, but he also has to create a break shot for himself.
Well, it looks like he's playing. Was it a dead 2 ball or is it the 5 ball with a hole over there? 14 ball he's playing. I couldn't.
He played the 14.
And he definitely missed the 14.
He missed the 14. Well,
it looked as if there wasn't the room for that ball to go, and he definitely tried to force it in there. And he did just what I expected he wouldn't do. He gave Steve an opportunity for no reason. Although he's at 141 to 31, you know, Steve Mizerak is still Mizerak.
And in the meantime, on the adjacent table, Pat Fleming is at the table with the score tied up at 10 games apiece. Rich Lesky did run out the last rack, tying up the score 10 apiece, but obviously he either came up dry in the break or there was some other way maybe that allowed Fleming to get to the table. But nevertheless, Fleming is at the table regardless of how he got there, and he has a shot on the 7. It's not an easy shot.
He's going to bank this ball, isn't he?
Let's take a look over on the adjacent table, Rick, and watch Pat. That score is 10 games apiece. I don't think we can get to the
other table. Definitely slammed this. No, Pat Fleming just played a tremendous cut shot over there, and although he didn't leave himself with a real easy shot.
And he has another difficult shot on the 9. Steve's at the table. As we
Hill
all can
shot.
see.
This is what's exciting in pool. 10-10. Getting back to Steve Mizerak, he just left himself a perfect break shot. He rolled this a shade too far, but he's perfect.
Okay, now Pat Fleming in his match against Rich Lesky is all knotted up at 10 games apiece, as we mentioned. Pat's at the table, and I think the make percentage of this shot on the 9 is about 50-50. That's the kind of a shot he has, so he's going to have to show, you know.
It seems like he not only has to worry about pocketing a hard
lot
shot,
of,
this could be a potential scratch in the side, maybe.
I guess this is what it's all about.
I don't know if I'd rather be shooting this ball or sitting, let the opponent shoot it. He played a bank shot, and he just, oh my lord, he scratched.
He elected to play the bank on the 9 to avoid the scratch in the side pocket. So he played the bank on a 9, successfully pocketing the bank, but the cue ball scratched in the corner pocket. Rich Lesky ends up winning the match 11-10. Mizerak now is at the table, shooting the break shot, which once again he makes an error on. And now Zuglan's back at the table, needing only 9 balls to put Mizerak away in their match.
You know, we talked about Steve before when he was sitting watching Mike run the balls, where he had that look of concentration on his face. It just seemed like it's gone. That you know, Mike's jumped out to such a big lead. It took something out of Steve. But Mike now needs to run 9 balls and they're wide open. He'll just pick away at 8 hangers here, and that'll be the end of the match. Pat Fleming has seemed to run against a lot of bad luck. When we ran this tournament 5 months ago, he played a match with Johnny Archer going to 11, and the score was 10-1 Fleming, and he lost the match. So Pat,
that's awfully hard.
Is there something 10-1?
That's awfully hard for me to believe that he could have. It doesn't matter who it is, anyone 10-1 and lose the match.
Johnny Archer, it got to where it was 10-10. Pat did get one difficult shot after that, but it was nothing where he could run out, and he missed it. And that was it. So Pat's putting in a lot of efforts with the Accu-Stats, and it's, it's hard to play pool and do that and work at the same time.
It certainly is. And that's another story worthy of telling is Johnny Archer's story last year, your tournament. There's a young man of 23 years old who's never played a game of straight pool in his life.
That was, the tournament I was referring to was the challenge match of 5 months. The one you're referring to was the holiday at 2 years ago, yes, where he ran, he ran about 150 and out on Nick Varner to win the tournament, and he was still open, and the crowd was chanting for him to keep going, and he did, and he ran, I think, another 50 or 54 more before he finally scratched. So Johnny Archer run 200-something balls, never having played in a straight pool tournament before in his life.
And in the meantime, Mike Zuglan did run the 9 balls that he needed to defeat Steve Mizerak, and he does by the score of 150-37.
Well, it's a case of when 2 champions play, it's just who gets loose first, and in this case, it was Mike Zuglan, and Mizerak had a couple of chances, but he never was able to put that big run together. So we're going to try to get Mike Zuglan up here for an interview and see what he has
Mike
to say.
Zuglan is definitely a tough guy to beat. It doesn't matter who he's facing. You can expect him to be in the match. And this is another indication of exactly how strong of a player Mike Zuglan actually is. Okay, here's your mic. Here's your mic. You're going to have
Turn off. What are you going to ask me?
Mike asked me what I was going to ask him. Well, Mike, I'm sure anything I ask you, you're going to have an answer for. You defeated Steve Mizerak, and congratulations, you are now on top of the board, tied with Lou Butera. You're in the lead in this round-robin tournament with the identical scores of 4-1, 4 wins and only 1 loss. Who did defeat you in this tournament, Mike?
Lou Butera.
Lou Butera defeated
Straight
you
pool.
in the straight pool?
Yep.
Well, he's very capable. He's a Hall
Very
of Famer.
capable.
Yeah, but we really enjoyed watching you play in your match against Steve Mizerak. You were running the balls very nicely out there. You were in complete control of the match. But there was one shot that Frank and I really didn't understand, and of course I'm sure you'll remember which shot that was. Is when you shot the 6-ball with the bridge. You hit it fairly hard. What were you actually trying to do when you shot that shot? Remember, you ended up in the corner pocket with the cue ball?
Oh, I was trying to break the rack.
You were trying to go into the 5.
Yeah.
The 5, and okay. We didn't really know what you were trying to do there. We realized you were trying to break the rack. By the speed that you hit it with, suggested to us that you were trying to break the rack, but the bridge, and as awkwardly as you had to shoot that shot, it was a really high-risk shot, and of course you did pay for it.
Right, because of the awkward way I had to set up at the bridge and the speed I had to hit it. I must have just took my eye off of it at the last second and just hit it bad.
And,
I didn't scratch though.
No, you didn't. You sure didn't scratch.
No, that was when you left yourself in the jaws of the hole.
The 6-ball was the next shot.
Right.
That was the 1-ball.
Yes.
The 6-ball was when it was jacked up in the corner, and I
Yes,
missed it, and
exactly.
then I broke the rack
I
up.
do remember. I was
That I
testing
remember.
you.
Correct.
What I'd like to ask you, Mike, we were talking about during the match is how you don't seem to show any noticeable intimidation playing a man of the caliber of Steve Mizerak, whereas a lot of other players, when they're matched up with Mizerak, can't put out their best effort. How do you feel going into a match with the caliber player of Steve Mizerak?
Well, I guess after you've been playing a while and playing players of that caliber, you tend to get a little more used to it than people that haven't done it so often.
And
Not that I play a lot,
and
but
plus you're a pretty good player too.
yeah, well, confidence. I do have some confidence, and that helps.
Yes, we were talking about your 148 ball run in Cleveland about 5 years ago when you lost to Miz in the finals, but I believe you did that on Jack Calavita, but that was the tight pocket diamond tables, and that was one of the better runs I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're really not a household name as far as the tour is concerned. You're not a regular on the tour. Had you be a regular on the tour, I'm certainly sure your name would be up there with Steve Mizerak and all the other great names. But unfortunately, you don't really play in enough events to get that recognition or that type of recognition. But the amount of events that you do play in, you certainly do make your presence felt, and that's for sure. Every tournament that I've seen you in, you certainly have made your presence felt, Mike. And I think personally that you're a great player, and there's no reason for you to be intimidated by anyone. And I'm certainly sure you feel the same way, and your play certainly indicates that.
Thanks, Billy. And if you show them you can play, then sometimes they get a little intimidated.
Yes, and on that note, Mike, congratulations once again, and good luck in your upcoming match tomorrow in Ibiza.
Thank you.
Well, Frank, I guess he answered the question. If you show them that you can play, maybe you'll be the intimidator instead
exactly
of them
it.
being the
There's
intimidator.
a lot of fellas out there right now getting to be intimidated by Mike Zuglan. Mike Zuglan is no longer a secret, as he hasn't been a secret for a long time.
Hey, no, he certainly is a secret. If he's ever traveled, he's certainly blown that.
Yes.
Okay, I think that it's about time for us to wrap it up. So, Frank, once again, it's been a pleasure working with you.
Same as Billy. I appreciate you having me.
And on behalf of Frank Zummo, this is Billy. Thanks a lot for supporting Accu-Stats.